What's going on, everybody? As you can tell by the redneck green screen behind me, we are back inside. And I don't know if you're ready to hear this, but the reason we're back inside is because, you ain't gonna believe it, it's raining. And it's gonna continue to rain through the rest of the week. Now, archery season's coming up quick. That's September 30th for most Pennsylvania hunters. But this gives me an opportunity, since I'm gonna be stuck inside anyway, to do a little bit of virtual scouting. So basically what virtual scouting is using a mapping application of your choosing to get an idea of the layout of whatever area you are interested in hunting, or maybe just even to find a place to hunt. Then using satellite and topographic imagery to sort of map out, get the lay of the land, and familiarize yourself with some of the key features of that area. Once you highlight some of the important parts, some of the things that you really want to check out, you can later go in and physically walk to all of the areas you highlighted virtually, get a closer look at them, see if they're huntable, if they're any good, if maybe there's a better spot on the way. You can really kind of lay out basically your entire approach and plan your hunt before season ever starts. So, with all that being said, let's get into it. Alright, so first off, we're going to be starting off on onX. I really like this mapping application, I guess you could say. It really has a lot of features that I think are cool. That being said, I'm not sponsored and this is not free. So, if you want to check it out, go right ahead. If not, I'll also be doing this on Google Maps, and you can do it fairly similarly for free. However, what I'm going to do really quickly right now is go over some of the features that lead me to prefer onX to Google Maps. So, as you can see, right here we have the entire state of Pennsylvania highlighted. And you can see I have a bunch of pins and stuff dropped here. This is my usual area of operations when it comes to hunting everything. So, when I'm trying to narrow down an area to hunt, specifically a new area, I want to stay somewhere relatively close to home, as I would assume most people probably do. What onX allows me to do is check out my specific WMU 2C, where I have my doe tag purchased, zoom in on it, and here I have kind of a little bit better layout of all the public land in 2C. All of these little light blue areas here that are highlighted are public game lands or state parks, things of that nature. So, since this is my usual area of operation, I'm going to look for an area somewhere pretty close. So, we'll go up into here and look for something pretty interesting. Alright, so I know where this dam is, where I do a lot of my fishing videos at. And I know there are game lands behind it, or around it. So I think, for the purposes of this video, we're going to focus on these particular game lands. Again, all of the light blue area here is public huntable land. The dark blue down here is the state park. There's a few campgrounds and things down there that I think you could probably avoid, or should probably avoid. So I'm going to be going up here into this general region for the purposes of my virtual scouting for this video. So, it's really helpful to have onX here because it shows you the exact boundary lines, shows you the topographical lines, as well as the satellite footage. All of this is overlaid over satellite images. So you have everything compacted all in one. You can see all the features of the terrain right now in one image. But you can also do this sort of on Google Maps. So let's switch over to that, and here we are. This is the Google Maps version of the onX. So since I'm going to be hunting a state game land, that is highlighted relatively well with the green area here, as you can see. So the area I can hunt is highlighted in green. So let's just select the terrain option down here, and this will pretty much work as your topographic lines. Matter of fact, I'm going to switch back to Onyx really quickly. So, if you don't know how to read topographic lines, let me just give you a little quick speed run into an introduction. So this bold line here is marked at 2,700 feet. This bold line over here is 2,600 feet. There are 4 lines in between, meaning each one of these lines is roughly 25 feet in elevation change, heading downhill from this central peak. The farther apart these lines are, the more gradual the descent, the more gradual the hillside, the easier it is to walk. Now on this side of the hill, you can see the lines are a lot closer together. That means this side of the hill is incredibly steep, or at least a lot steeper than this side. So you can use that to your advantage when planning an access point. It's going to be a lot easier to get in from this side if you wanted to hunt this area than it would be to try and come up from the bottom. So, with that being said, let's get back to Google Maps. Now, the topographic lines are a lot harder to see on Google Maps, but it's still workable, and it's free. It also seems to add a little bit better of a view. You can see where it's kind of shaded in. It's pretty steep. There are a few features that we can really start looking for now that we have our area picked out. Right here is water access. You can't hunt around the very edge of it, except for this little peak here. There's plenty of land that you can hunt fairly close, almost directly adjacent to that water access. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, this whole little draw going down to the lake is huntable and probably fairly decent. If there's any sort of feed sources nearby, this here change in elevation would actually probably be a pretty decent spot for some deer to bed. I would actually expect, specifically along this bench here, I would expect to see a good amount of deer bedding. At the very least, you're looking at a contour line, a natural sort of funnel for these deer to get to water. So, now that we've seen this, now that we've narrowed down sort of a specific area that we're interested in, let's swap over to the satellite, and we can check out a little bit closer. So here we have our draw going down to the water access. All of it's huntable. And we can also see some of the changes in the trees. Right here we have some hard edges. Looks like this may have been at one point maybe clear cut and regrown. And the same with over here. These two little areas here seem like there's been some kind of disturbance. It also appears that we have a little bit of an orchard and another little clearing over here. Now, I don't know when this image was taken, so it very well could have changed since then, grown in, gotten a lot thicker. This could be all just open big woods by now. But this orchard actually looks pretty enticing. So now that we know that this orchard ends, this orchard is at the end of a trail, let's swap back to our topographic here. And we can see it's right along that area where I said, where I would expect to see maybe some deer bedding. That means, essentially, what we have is access to food, access to water, and minimal effort of travel. So this whole area could be a pretty interesting spot to check out, actually get into, and look around. So if I go back to OnX, what I can do is, once I figure out how to do it on PC, I'm used to doing it on my phone, we can add a waypoint. Here we have our waypoint options. Let's just say, drag this pin over to here. Leave a little note for ourselves to scout it later. Okay, so now we have one possible location that we need to go and physically scout. Here looks like another little clearing, but it's going to be right next to the access road. We also need to verify that this access road is in fact accessible. It's right off of a main road, but there's a parking lot down here. So I'm wondering if this might be gated off. Doesn't appear to be so. But just in case, that almost looks like a little pond. But anyway, the important thing to remember here is that we're seeing the same features. You can see here's our hard edges around the disturbance. We're seeing the same features on both of these applications. So that's pretty promising that it might be at least similar once we actually get in there and get to look at it. So what we're seeing here is we should at least be able to access this road here with a vehicle, but we may have to walk all the way back in here in order to get to this area. So while we're at it, let's just keep checking out along that trail, see if there's anything else that seems interesting. Well, this looks like it might be all accessible by vehicle. Well, if that's the case, that would be fantastic, but I'm definitely going to have to get up there and check it out. And it looks like there's another little parking area right here, so what I'm going to do for me later is just go ahead and drop this pin. So that I know later I can access this on my phone and actually go to this spot and check it out. Looks like there's another parking area here, another parking area here. So accessing this point might be a lot easier than I originally thought. We have another little hillside here. But other than that, I'm not seeing anything too incredibly interesting from a hunting perspective. We have water access along this stream, which is good. Maybe we can check out up into some of these draws here where the stream feeds out. The downside to this location is that it's going to be all uphill. The good news is, if you kill something up here, it's going to be an all downhill drag. So there's trade-offs with both of these. We'll go back to Google Maps quickly, see if we see the same features right here. Not a whole lot of topographic data here. I have to zoom out a little bit. But again, you can see right here's our little bottoms. They may be even a couple little saddles over the edge here. That could sort of funnel some deer movement if anything's bedding up top or anything in the surrounding area. So that could be another point of interest. Now there's another access road here that goes down through the entire very bottom. But man, does that look miserable to hunt or what? Okay, so as you can see up in here, we have some ag fields, which is potential food source, which is great. We go back to the topography, we can see there's a river that runs along the bottom, or a stream. So we have access to water, we have access to food along the top here. So it seems like right here would be sort of a natural funnel for deer to move from water up into feed. Now potentially they could be bedding up along these hillsides. I'm not going up there after them. If anything, I might even set up along this little ridge here, try to catch anything coming along the side of the hill, working its way up to feed. This might even be a better rifle season spot, because if you set up along this ridge, you should be able to watch the far side as well as anything moving along the side hill here. You just have to watch you're not getting too close to this boundary with the private land. So if we go over to OnX, we can see that we have an access road, a parking area, and very easy access to this little ridge that I wanted to set up on. We'll go ahead and drop a pin in here. And then later we can go in and check for fresh sign. And already we are up to almost 3 potential new hunting spots. While we're here, this looks like a potential old clear cut, maybe a little meadow of sorts. That might be something worth checking out as well. The rest of this is all appears to be big woods and timber, which will be interesting to actually physically get into and look for acorns or greenbrier or any sort of raspberries, browse, and food that they might be finding out and about. Now, the main draw to this area is proximity to the agricultural fields here, but they might not get there until after dark. So, if those deer are bedding anywhere along these ridges, along the side hill here, we might be able to catch them as they move from their bedding areas, wherever they may be, up this draw and towards those ag fields. So before this turns into a 40-minute video of me clicking around on maps, right here we already have 4 points of interest on a new game land site that I need to go check out if it ever stops raining. So anyway, that's sort of my general process for narrowing down some new locations to hunt. Try it out for yourself, whether you use Onyx, Google Maps, or any other kind of mapping application. Use your satellite footage, narrow down some specific areas to target, then go in and check them out later. Alright, so that's going to do it for this week's episode. Make sure you like the video, subscribe here if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.